All right, good morning and welcome to the January 23rd, 2024 Delaware County Council meeting. Call this meeting to order. We could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and Anya, kick us off. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If we could all remain standing, sorry. Yesterday we lost an employee with the county, Becky Flowers, and the auditor's office. So if we could all just take a moment of silence and remember her today. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Present.
Mr. Hughes.
Here.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Here.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Present.
Piper.
Here. All right, so as a reminder, questions from the public may be directed to CountyCouncilDist@co.delaware.in.us. Again, that's CountyCouncilDist@co.delaware.in.us. Denise, was the agenda posted? Yeah. At this time, I'll entertain an approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Dan, second by Eugene. Roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. All right, and then I will entertain an approval of the December 12th County Council meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Dan, second by Eugene. Roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. And an approval of the January 3rd special meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Dan, second by Eugene. Roll call, please.
Ms. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Abstain.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. All right, moving on to our transfers. And before we get started, Finance Committee met last week and gave all of our transfers and appropriations a favorable recommendation this time around.
Okay, we're starting off in County General, under Circuit Court, 138. We have E147, Probation Support Staff, negative 31,743. F147, Probation Support Staff, positive 31,743 for a total transfer of 0.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Eugene.
Nope.
I'm
Dan.
sorry, Dan. Thank you. This is just backfilling, correct?
Yes.
Do we have any additional questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, moving
Okay.
on.
Next, we have Communications, 124. We have D124, Communication Tech, negative 41,798.10. E124, Communication Tech, positive 41,798.10 for a total transfer of 0.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. This is more backfilling, correct? Any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, Jail, 145. We have E123, Correctional Officer, negative 38,372.92. F123, Correctional Officer, positive 38,372.92. C144, Correctional Officer, negative $35,089.14. D144, Corporal, positive $35,089.14. D151, Corporal, negative 37,801.55. E151, Corporal, positive 37,801.55. Total transfer is 0.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. This is basically backfilling and kind of rearranging, correct?
D44 is supposed to be corporal and not correction officer.
Correct. This is the one that the sheriff had talked to you about at budget times, so
Remember
that he could balance out and have supervisors on all the shifts.
Okay, thank you.
The person going into the position has less time than the person who had it, so there's no shortage of funds or anything like that.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. Yeah, thank you.
President Piper, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Yes. These are all backfills for all employees. Pretty much all of our transfers are the exact same thing. We'll vote on all of them.
Think, let me look at notes real quick.
And then my follow-up question, that way I look for that is, what can we do to change that?
We're working on it. Finance committee's been in some conversations with some of the department heads.
Okay. good,
We're
good.
working
So
on
it's
that.
something you guys are looking into already. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on, I'm sorry, public defender. Actually, while we're on the public defender, well, did we get a motion to approve yet?
Well, I think we're waiting for you to start that one, and when I asked the question before you disruptive. Yeah, I just,
Well,
good work.
I do want to make sure we introduce Sam Beasley, who is our new chief public defender. But before we make any vote here, but I want to give you an opportunity to say hi and let us know who you are.
Good morning, everyone. Sam Beasley. I'm the new Chief Public Defender for Delaware County. Extremely honored to be in the position and looking forward to helping out, the indigent in the community who are going through difficult times and trying to make this system of justice of ours kind of move along. So, yeah, if there's anything that comes up that you think that I could do or our office could do to be of assistance to the county, please, by all means, reach out. Love to hear from you. So,
Welcome.
thank you. Thank you.
And it's a joy to me because he's even taller than Kelly was. So I look like the little person, he looks like the giant. But he's a welcome addition. As Kelly retired, Sam stepped up and wanted to take the position, and he's done a fantastic job for several years as a public defender in our court. He's very he's very trial experienced, and we're just lucky to have him to replace Kelly. I think it's going to be a really smooth transition.
What's the pleasure of the council? Would we like to read them all in together?
Yes.
Bill, Eugene, are we good with that? All of the transfers, just read them in and vote on them.
I'd like to take them department by department.
Okay. Okay, doing it that way then. So do we have a motion for public chief defender?
Hasn't read it.
Oh, I apologize.
All right, so
Jumping the
we're
gun.
starting with public
Yes, we
defender
are.
now.
Thank you.
Okay, Department 139. We have B 173, legal secretary, negative 37,731. C 173, legal secretary, positive 37,731. B 149, public defender, negative 48,000. C 149, public defender, positive 48,000. A 148, chief public defender, negative 102,000. B 148, chief public defender, positive 102,000. Total transfer is 0.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, motion by Ryan, second by Dan. Any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Piper.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on.
Okay, under Sheriff 129, we have D 135 Lieutenant, negative 3,756. D 122 Corporal, positive $200. E 143 Deputy, positive $2,030. B 104 Captain, positive $1,000. A 155 Door Bailiff, positive $526. C 113 Lieutenant, negative 66,273.75. D 113 Lieutenant, positive 66,273.75. And I should have read this ahead of time. We are gonna have 2 changes here in a row. On F 119 Corporal, this is gonna reduce to negative 52,517.14. And then your G 119 corporal is gonna be the same amount and a positive 52,517.14. And then the next change is on the very next line. We have B 120 deputy. That is going to reduce to a negative 47,409.74. And then the next line after that, C 120 deputy, is gonna be the same amount and a positive 47,409.74. And then on to C 129 is negative 47,859.45. D 129 deputy, positive 47,859.45. Total transfer is 0.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. Any additional questions?
I do have a quick one.
Okay.
Nancy, can you tell me, these odd ones here, the ones that don't cancel each other out, the captain, deputy, corporal, lieutenant? What those are about?
When we went in to make some promotions, those all were done after your budget was done. So I had to add money into lines people took spots who had more time than the person who had left. So I went from within my own budget and made those adjustments. Rather than ask you for more money.
Can't argue with that.
No,
All right, any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes. Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Mr. Piper.
Yes,
thank you.
thank you.
Okay, Title 40 Court 123, we have A 105 Assistant Court Reporter, negative $32,102. B 105 Assistant Court Reporter, positive $32,102. Total transfer is 0.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. Any questions on this backfilling? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Mr. Piper.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. All right,
Okay, we have the Lit Jail, 1171.45. D 106 Correctional Officer, negative 39,416. E 106 Correctional Officer, positive 39,416. Total transfer is 0.
Motion to approve.
Second.
motion by Ryan, second by Dan. Any questions on this backfilling? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Mr. Piper.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Motor Vehicle Highway, 1176. C 132 Truck Driver, positive 1,581.44. A 116 Equipment Operator, negative 1,581.44. Total transfer is 0.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. Carrie, do you want to explain this one? So back in November, we had a operator that went to a truck driver and a truck driver that went to the operator. So the operator had, been employed with us for a while, has longevity that needed to be added to the truck driver line. Your guys' 24 budget had already been approved, so that's all this is. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Mr. Piper.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. And you're back.
I'm back.
Okay, under addendum, we have County General Sheriff 129. We have E 109 Lieutenant, negative 55,312.36. F 109 Lieutenant, positive 55,312.36. D 117 Corporal, negative $50,580. E 117 Corporal, positive $50,580. Total transfer is 0.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. Any questions on these backfillings? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Mr. Piper.
Yes. Thank you.
And then we're moving to other motor vehicle highway 1176. D 135, truck driver, negative 40,800. E 135, positive 40,800. Total transfer is 0.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. Any questions on this backfilling? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Mr. Piper.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to the financial.
Okay, first is under County General Jail 145. We have C 147, correctional officer, $750.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. Any questions on this one?
I do.
Yep.
I have a question.
Sure. Actually, it might just be easier for Tanya to explain what it is.
Pretty much,
Are you gonna ask what it is and why? All right, when we did the budget, me and Becky both, we just like missed this one. Like, I don't know how, in our calculation, when we were doing all the $750 additions, and we just missed this guy's line.
So it's on
So-
us, it wasn't on them.
Yeah, yeah, it was on me,
Yep.
really, you know what I mean? So you approved it in the budget, however, that amount was not included in my total that you signed off on.
Okay.
So we need to get that back in there.
I was just gonna ask why you didn't do the same thing you did earlier, was finding the
That's
money, but
okay.
I just
Yeah.
took away my opportunity.
I think I told her to do it this way, I
That's
checked
why.
with
Yeah,
her.
I started to ask her in finance, like, can we find this in your budget? And then I was like, oh, just a mistake, so it's fine.
Good explanation.
Any additional questions? Roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Mr. Piper.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, we move to other. First up is adult user fee, 2,100. We have line 194, probation officer assistant, positive $4,711, total $4,711.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. And just a reminder, we are in the other category, so most of these are just allocating their grants and other funds that they have, that they were able to do during budget. So that's what all of these are. Some of these grants come in after and so forth. So that's what these are. Any questions?
Like you said, this is a part of the restructuring process in the probation office.
Yes, sorry, Emily Anderson, Court Administrator, and I have Jeff Hanser, Chief Probation Officer here. So as we all know, juvenile probation is struggling with their caseload. We received a juvenile probation case manager as part of helping us at budget. We're reclassifying the part-time probation officer to a full-time probation officer assistant. And by doing that, we need to up the pay. So we took a current probation admin staff, and we're gonna take this amount, add it to the salary, and make them full-time probation officer assistant. So this is just adding to that salary to make them a full-time probation officer assistant, again, to help out juveniles. So restructuring jobs within our department to help out the workload out there, using what we have.
Any additional questions?
You're able to do that out of user fees. right?
Correct. So this is not a stipend. It is actually adding to their salary, and this will be their full salary every year. But we're gonna pay this portion of the salary, just like we do for some of the probation officers. Most of their salary comes out of county general, and then a portion comes out of probation user fees. So we're absorbing that amount out of user fees.
Do you need any approval from anyone to like change their job title and increase their
We
pay?
already have the job description. We just put it to full-time instead of part-time. And, we checked with Pam, and she said we don't need the approval because it's just changing it from part-time to full-time. So we already had a job description for the part-time. We just are making it full-time.
Does this employee get benefits?
They're already a full-time employee and they already get benefits. Yeah, so we're not adding any benefits. We're just adding this portion of the salary
Sure.
through user fees. Not really adding an employee, just adding pay out of our user fees.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Mr. Piper.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, comprehensive plan 1180, we have 310 professional services, positive 155,000. 323 travel, positive 3,000. 331 printing, positive 1,500. 391 dues and subscriptions, positive $5,000. 393 schooling, positive $5,000. 395 public meetings, positive 500. Even 441 computer equipment, positive $5,000, total $175,000.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. Do we have any questions here?
Yeah, I have some questions.
All right.
Could you explain what professional services are?
So the professional services, Kylene Swackhammer for the Plan Commission. Professional services are any consulting services that we need to pay, any, consulting services that we need to pay for, special projects, if we change ordinances and have to use the consulting services, if we update ADA plan. Last year we used it for Transmap, which is our road inventory, infrastructure design manuals, things like that.
So do you have a specific plan for this 155,000? Like, do you have an invoice? You have something that says it's gonna be 155,000?
We will be, so we have coming up, we have a final Transmap bill that is due that we will be paying out of this. These are the ones that once we do pay them, they get 80% reimbursed as well. So it's kind of that running total of we need to pay it out, but then we get it back in return.
This is just making the allocation. It doesn't mean they plan to use all of this money from their fund.
Yeah.
For that thing.
And if I may, it's the same amount that they did last year at this time, just at the beginning of the year. They're just getting this fund ready for the year, you could say, in order to spend from it.
Well, and I understand that. I understand, but your particular fund, yours is out of county general. I guess what I was getting at is what I'm trying to get away from, at least for me personally, is people come in and sit at the podium and ask for a blanket amount, 50,000 for contractual service or whatever. They don't bring any invoices. They don't bring anything saying this is what that 50,000 is going to. We vote for it. They walk out the door and then we never follow up and we don't know if they spent that money or if they didn't.
Yeah.
And then 8 months later, someone will come in and want a shiny new copy or whatever, and go, hell, I got $8,000 extra in my budget. I'm using my own money. You don't even have to appropriate any of it. It's just a transfer out of my own budget. But really, we gave that money 8 months earlier. So I'm not saying that that was the case. I'm asking these questions when it comes to these blanket requests like this, because I'm wanting you to see more invoices when someone comes in requesting the money like that. So I understand your case is a little bit different, a little bit unique. I appreciate you taking a moment to explain it to us.
Yeah, and I'm learning more about the budget and, things that are coming up and that type of thing and what we spend out of each, plan each year. So, and sometimes things are annual, sometimes they're every 3 years.
Sure. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Ms. Blanken?
Yes.
Mr. Hughes?
Yes.
Mr. Cantz?
Yes.
Mr. Mokel?
Yes.
Mr. Webb?
Yes.
Mr. Whitehead?
Yes.
Ms. Piper?
Yes. Thank you.
EMS capital improvements 4910. We have 449 power load cots, positive 61,763.56. 443 repeater transmitter Motorola, positive $6,033. Again, 449 power load cots. However, this is system only, positive 94,947.15. That makes a total on the power load cots, if you add those together, 156,710.71, just to let you know. And the total is 162,743.71.
Motion to approve.
Wait, wait. So Mike Ashley, Delaware County EMS Director, and Megan, my, office manager. We need to take out the first 61,763 because it's duplicated into the 94,947.
Closer to 101,000.
Yeah, 100,980.15. The 94,000 total, that's what we needed total for all the cots and load systems, but it was in two different invoices, so I think that one accidentally got added back in back in when you're looking at it. So. The good news is I don't need that $61,000.
What was the total again?
What's that?
What was the total?
100,980.15. That would be the, transmitter, repeater for 6,033, and then the 94,947 for all the truck stuff.
I'll reiterate my motion. Thanks, total.
And second,
All right, we've got a motion from Ryan and second by Dan as amended, or as reread in. And one of the things you mentioned in finance is we already have all the other trucks are equipped with this technology, but this too. So this would finally,
Yeah, well, I have
out.
one more to go this summer
Okay.
when I get that truck remounted. It's in line now. It's when we paid for the chassis last year. We'll finish it, but it doesn't even go to the factory till June. So takes about a year, takes about a year and a half now to get these things done since COVID. It used to take about 90 to 120 days, but
and then the Motorola was a bill that you thought was paid that wasn't, so now we gotta pay it.
It's the labor charge for the installation of that repeater.
yeah, we originally got that money out at the end of 22 and had to encumber it. And they finally got the part, paid for that, but they wouldn't let us pay for the install. So then we ran into the end of this year. They just got it installed and now they got to order more parts to fix the part that came. But it's all under warranty, so that costs us any more, we're
Sure.
done paying money after this, but we've been messing with this since the end of 22, but we have to have it. I mean,
Right.
it's on the tower out there that tells the radios where to go, so.
Question.
Yes, sir.
What's the lifespan of those Motorola radios and the services that we're paying for?
About 20 years.
And the other
And this
question is,
is replacing a piece of equipment, it's about 20 years old.
okay. And then the second question is, I know you re-chassis a lot of the ambulances
Mhm.
every 3 years or something like that, 10 years, whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah, 5 to 7.
This rail system that you're installing, that will stay in, right? 'Cause
Yes.
You keep the cab, the
Yeah,
box
the
portion.
box is the box, that's the real ambulance part, the rest is just the truck.
So once
the truck
you
part
pay to
is what gets
install this,
re-chassis.
we're good for the life of it until you decide to put it to pasture.
Yep, we should get, good 10 years out of those anyway, so. So, they're salty, I mean, they just are, but
And just for the public, could you explain what the load cots do?
so,
A brief description?
yeah, so the cot itself is power, so it goes down, goes up, and this rail system comes out, the cot actually locks into it, and then it grabs onto the cot, picks it up, and you just slide it in and out. It's not for comfort of the people. It really saves on the back injuries and stuff like that, which we see a lot of when you're trying to lift it. It'll lift up to 700 pounds, but the thing is, this load system, once it's locked into that cot and you push it in there, if that truck should roll over, which they do occasionally, luckily we haven't had one, but it keeps that nailed to that floor. So it's a
Security.
huge safety thing for the patient, for everybody in the truck. And every state around us has mandated those, so any new trucks that get built or re-chassis have to have them. Why Indiana's not yet, I don't know, but I know it's coming. So my guess is a lot of fancy lobbying downtown that, is keeping it as long as they can because it's expensive. But we started putting these in trucks a few years ago, and due to the cost, we're just trying to get them a little bit at a time. And by the end of this summer, all of our trucks will have it, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, any additional questions?
On the EMS capital improvements fund, there's an encumbrance that we're gonna approve today. 83,760. Is that a rebuild of a chassis? Is that what
Yeah,
that
that's
is?
a truck that's in Van Wert, Ohio right now. Should have been done, but it got a recall on the transmission before we even seen it, so it's in the shop right now, so they should have it finished up hopefully end of the month. Okay, thank you, so. And that's another project that started at the end of 22. Actually, it started in 21. COVID really jacked things up trying to get this stuff done, so.
Okay, any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Webb.
Yes.
Syed.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Mike. Thank you.
Family Recovery Court Grant, 8192. We have B 101 Program Coordinator, positive 2,563, 171 FICA, $196, 172 per, $287. Total is $3,046.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. Emily, I'll let you explain this one.
Sure. Emily Anderson, Court Administrator. Family Recovery Court, grant was approved during budget last year. We approximated what we were gonna get. We got more. So what we did is we had to go back in and reallocate monies in the budget. Since this is salary, we had to add the salary back in for your approval. So she's getting a raise. But also we reallocated money into the program as well. You just don't see that part because that doesn't have to be allocated by you. So I'm just having to come back in and add this part into her grant for her salary and benefits.
Any questions? Hearing, oh,
Hold on one second. Explain how she's getting a raise how again?
The grantor gave us more in the award than
It
we
just
asked.
automatically gives a raise
Yeah.
because more. Okay.
Well, they're like, here's your money, do what you want with it. And she has caps in her program, like for incentives, stuff within her program. So she did cap those out and then the rest went to salary.
So she really pretty much can't go anywhere else because of the cap.
Right.
Okay, I follow you. Thank you for explaining
well,
that.
if they don't get that much money next year, her salary will go back down.
Right.
So it's not
Never want to
permanent.
leave money on the table with grants.
Yeah, so it could potentially fluctuate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it can fluctuate year to year. She knows that. Her whole salary, her whole program is based on grant.
Thank you.
All right, roll call, please.
Ms. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes. Yes. Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt. Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
GIS map, 1150. We have 241 computer support, positive $10,000. 310 professional services, positive $115,000. 323 travel, positive $5,000. 331 printing, positive $5,000. 393 schooling, positive $5,000. 391 dues and subscriptions, positive $5,000. 441 computer GIS equipment, positive $5,000. Total equals $150,000.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. My apologies, this is your first council meeting. Would you like to address the audience and introduce yourself?
My name is Kylie Swackhammer, the new director of the Plan Commission.
Welcome.
Thank you.
She was thrown to the wolves a little bit on finance committee, and we're throwing you out here for everyone today too, and you too, Sam, so welcome. This is just your annual allocation for this fund, correct?
Yes.
So, do you have any additional questions?
Quick question on what the professional services are.
So on this one, we do have some specifics coming up that we know of. So the dues and subscriptions, we do pay, for ArcGIS, online storage. We have a pictometry payment coming up, which pictometry is the, company that does the aerial views. So those are used not only by our office, but, by a lot of offices. We pay Beacon quarterly for, the Beacon services, the Beacon subscription, so things like that that are, regularly paid.
Thank you. That Beacon app is tremendously helpful.
I'm curious, do you have any idea what the Beacon quarterly payment is?
Quarterly, it is 3,600.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Ms. Flanagan. Yes. Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. All right, thank you. Moving on.
Okay, what we've referred to in the past as juvenile DUI grant 8109, just to let you know, we are going to start referring that to as CHIRP, CHIRP, which means Comprehensive Highway Injury Reduction Program 2024. We did receive the paperwork on that to confirm that that is now what that is called and what it's for. So under the CHIRP grant 8109, We have 101 DUI grant salaries, 91,274.84 for a total of 91,274.84.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan, and this is 100% reimbursable, correct?
We have already received the letter stating that we would receive a grand total of 121,274.85. However, he came, or, yeah, I believe it was, TJ came instead of Nancy at the end of the year, anyways, to ask for 30 at the end of the year to get them through. And then, they're appropriating the rest of it today.
This grant actually starts in October, on October 1. It does not fall normal end of year or July 1 or anything like that, so.
We get this once a year.
So we'll be back in October when the new letter arrives and we'll appropriate to give us from October to December. And then in January, I'll appropriate the remainder to get through the next October.
There was a negative cash balance January 1, so that comes off first, and then
Right, and that's because even though we have the letter, the money has not arrived yet.
gotcha.
All right, any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Ms. Blanket,
Yes.
Ms. Hughes,
Yes.
Ms. Cantz,
Yes.
Mokel,
Yes.
Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt,
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes.
Thank you, and
Thank you.
I'll be finished.
Yeah, you may rest now.
Opioid grant, 8199. We have line 101, peer recovery coach for a positive $31,250, total $31,250.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan, allocating your funds for your 24 budget, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Ms. Blanket,
Yes.
Ms. Hughes, Ms. Cantz,
Yes.
Mr. Mokel,
Yes.
Mr. Webb,
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt,
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Sales disclosure, 1131. We have 212, Form 11 supplies, positive $11,750. 393 schooling, positive $3,000. 392 dues, positive $1,000. 316 property record PDF posting, positive $200. We have a total of $15,950.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. Any questions?
I have a quick question about
Sure.
the Form 11 supplies. Could you kind of explain what those are, sir?
Yeah, James Carmichael, County Assessor. I'll get this out in a minute. So we send out notice of assessments every year, and this is the envelopes, this is the paper, everything that goes along with that when we send all those out. So we'll send out approximately around 50,000 a year.
So is that, is this for the year, you think?
We have some other in our budget, so we just, based an estimate on what we did last year, maybe add a little bit to it, because we know costs are up.
Okay.
And we buy that in bulk through the printer, so we're trying to get it all, we get a pallet like purchase.
I was actually surprised it was that cheap, just thinking about.
And then the postage is coming up too, so that's not gonna be any better.
This is just the form.
Until they get it all online, it's just the way it's gonna be. So you take a look at the, PDF posting down there, was $200. That's, we put that in there because when we got the billing, it was after the budget cycle was $200 higher. So we put all those records online as well, so, until they decide that we don't have to send out paper, this, these costs are just gonna be here.
Hopefully they get with the modern world soon and decide that that's the way to go digitally.
There's still a large group of people that like paper, so.
All right, any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Ms. Flanagan.
Yes.
Ms. Hughes.
Yes.
Ms. Cantz. Yes. Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Oh, sorry.
Missed you.
Dang it.
Sex and violent admin, 1192. We have line 200 supplies, positive $6,000. 300 phone and computers, positive $6,000 for a total of $12,000.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. Any questions on this one? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. Thank you. Now go rest.
Unsafe building, 1207. We have supplies, positive $500. That should be, 211 supplies, $500. 310 recording fees, positive $500. 364 unsafe buildings, positive $64,000, total $65,000.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Motion by Ryan, second by Dan. This is an annual allocation for this fund. Do we have any additional questions?
Yeah, I do. When you say annual allocation, tell me what you mean by that.
All of these,
You have 64,000 every year for unsafe buildings?
oh, they have to come make the designation for what line item it goes into. They're just coming before us to say that I want this much in line 310, I want this much in 364.
Okay.
There's just their annual, once they get the grant or wherever the funds are, they just come in.
This is a grant. Funds come from building permits, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Kylie Blackhammer again, Plan Commission. So, 10% of the, incoming money from building permits goes to this account. So we currently have a balance in this account of 64,000. We have to spend money out of this one for supplies, notices sent out if Tom has to board up a building or anything like that. We have two that are out for bid right now. And then I think Tom wants to take 4 before, the next unsafe housing meeting. So this money is just for if we would need to tear down a house.
And I needed to point out that when I got this paper done last night, the one that I give you with all the estimated of the budget for the fund, when I estimate, all I can do is go off of like the miscellaneous revenue for like the last year, the last 2 years, and just kind of estimate it out like that. And when I come back, as far as, accounting for, I think, did they have encumbrance on theirs as well? No, okay. So, anyways, it comes back for 82,224. That's okay. All right. I was just thinking the balance was 64,597 as of right now, but, they were asking for 65, and I remembered that threw me off, and so that was something I wanted to ask you about. We were talking about our other plan this morning. I forgot to ask her about this plan, but I think we're okay when we account for the miscellaneous revenue that's still due to come into this as well, so.
It was 10% of what fees?
So,
Permit fees?
permit,
Okay.
permit fee.
Because you had said, I'll pull a Ryan Webb here, assessment fees on the property, on an unsafe property are only $25, right? Is it, we're,
Well,
Good.
that is like I think that's the recording fees and filing fees that we have to pay
okay,
if there is a lien put on that property.
so we're paying that $25
Yes, and then it comes back to us.
allegedly.
But is there a civil penalty amount?
Yeah, Brandy may be able to help out on this one.
Brandy Ehrman, Plan Commission. I just deal with the building permit side of things a little bit more, so I'll help Kylie out. So if the building commissioner if he tears down a house and he puts that, assessment on the property to try and get that money back, we pay $25 to record that. And then when that lien is, removed, we pay the $25 as well, but we charge that to the property owner. So essentially, the property owner's paying it, we're just fronting the money until we get it back. And then there is also a special assessment fee that they pay in the auditor's office, but all of that is charged to the property owner.
How many times when we have to put a lien on an unsafe property do we actually collect? Yeah.
So last year, the building commissioner placed 3, liens, and we did get all of that money back. I still have to release those special assessments when these funds are, opened up, but we did get those 3 back. As far as tearing down, a house, those were just, liens for unsafe houses, one that we boarded up, things like that. We have one that we tore down last year. I think those fines are still on that property. That person has not paid those back yet. And those will remain on that property for a certain amount of time. I think it falls off. I don't know much about the tax sales, but at some point those do fall off. But if we pay those fines, then those fees, it comes back to this account. So, I hope that,
How much is the tear down? What's the cost?
that roughly depends. It could be approximately $20,000 depending on the amount of structures on the property, the amount of debris on the property. We did one last year where we received bids from about 15,000 to 20,000. So that was a single-story house, but it had a lot of trash and debris on the property.
And do you seek bids for those?
We do, yes. Like Kylene mentioned, we do have two that are out for bid right now. Those are not scheduled to be open until February 7th and February 21st. But those are for a couple of pretty rough-looking properties, so.
And do we collect that 20,000?
Yes, if we have to pay that fee, then that is put on the property as a lien, so that hopefully we get that back.
Or the odds?
Well, I've been doing this for 10 years and we've only torn down 2 properties and we've gotten both of those back, so the odds are pretty good. In my experience.
So last question, if I'm understanding this correctly, President Piper,
Yes?
we take the money from the grant, we put it in line item 364, and that 64,000 cannot be spent on anything other than demolition, board ups, things of that nature, correct?
Anything regarding unsafe housing,
Right.
like Kylene mentioned, recording fees, filing fees, supplies that we may need for those meetings. If the building commissioner, he's needed a hard hat a couple of times to go to different places. So, he's got that. It's, he can reuse it, but any of those things that he would use for unsafe housing only.
So Ryan, kind of think of this as like during budget hearing process, like when we're going through each department and whatever line item we approve for, the monies for that line item can only be used for that line item. It's the same thing with all of these different grants and funds.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right, roll call, please.
Ms. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes. Yes. Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. Would someone like to read the motion?
Motion to approve financial transfers and to amend salary ordinance with like reductions. So, second?
Motion by Eugene, second by Dan. Roll call, please.
Ms. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz.
Yes.
Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes. All right, moving on to ordinances, resolutions. We do not have any today. I don't know if we have any, we don't have any appointments, but I don't know if we have any other committee reports. I wasn't aware of any coming into the meeting. And moving on to old business, we do have a report from the Tax Abatement Committee from their meeting, earlier this year. So Bill, would you like to present that?
Yeah, thank you. The Tax Abatement Committee consists of myself, Josh Perkins, Joe Barr. We met on January 9th. And I furnished a complete written report to each member of the council and to the auditor. I'll just try to briefly summarize. We looked at a couple of general topics, the tax abatement process and the impact of tax abatements on the county general fund revenue and on county taxpayers. Matt Eckerly of Baker Tilly was very helpful in helping us through that process and pointing out that from the county's point of view, each year we have what's called a maximum levy. There is a ceiling on what we can collect from property taxes. So any new development, regardless of whether tax abatement is involved or not, any new development does not put us over that maximum levy. We are still capped at that. What it would do is reduce the tax rate for all taxpayers if you have new development. So the county does not directly benefit or directly harmed by tax abatement. because of that, maximum levy. And that's determined annually by the Indiana Department of Local Government Finance. Second question we looked at was the background and history of the two solar energy projects, Meadow Forge, which is Washington Township, and Hawthorne, which is in Delaware Township. Those were first approved in 2021. I'm not going to go, we've had a kind of a discussion of the history of those. They were approved in the fall of 2021. A moratorium was imposed in early 2022, and that remained in place until the end of last year. In the meantime, there have been numerous amendments to the Delaware County Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance regarding solar energy projects, and that would impact on the design and construction of these projects. We then talked about 5 specific questions that had been raised regarding tax abatements. One was whether productive agricultural land can be designated as an economic redevelopment area, an ERA, under the applicable Indiana code in order to grant tax abatements. And we had pointed out that the question was specifically addressed in an email from Kerry Smith, in which he said to classify some of the best farmland in Delaware County as an ERA is absurd, and this alone should provide legitimate grounds for rescinding the tax abatement. The problem with that is that there are 2 specific Indiana Court of Appeals decisions that came down in September of 2023 that arose out of Pulaski County up north. And in those cases, the court specifically held that farmland to be developed as a solar energy project could fall within the definition of an economic revitalization area. So until those court cases are overruled by a higher court, or until the General Assembly changes the definitions in the tax abatement statute, that's the law in Indiana. That seems to be a subtle question. The second topic we addressed was whether all statutory procedures were followed in granting the tax abatement for Meadow Forge and Hawthorne. And as far as we have been advised, all of those procedures were followed, the statutory procedures. Discussion has been had whether the notice provisions really were adequate to inform the public, but as far as what the statute requires, all of that was properly done. Third topic was whether financial information that was presented to the county council at the time of the tax abatement resolutions were under consideration was misleading, and this referred directly to a slide presentation that actually was not presented to the county council at that time, but it was done in January of 2022. And in that slide presentation, there was an allocation of where tax money from these various projects would be allocated if once they paid their tax over the life of the project. And that could be misinterpreted to mean that this was new money that was going to come to Delaware County, to the township, to the school corporation, and so forth. However, there was a footnote on that very slide that points out that, and this was underlined and in bold print, estimated taxes paid by the company do not necessarily represent additional property tax revenues for funds subject to maximum levy limitations. And that's exactly the situation we're in. Since we're at the maximum levy, these are not going to be new funds. The increase in tax revenue is going to simply reduce the tax rate for all taxpayers. So our conclusion from the committee point of view was that this was probably misunderstood, but it was not intended to be misleading. Next question was whether amendments to the county comprehensive zoning ordinance subsequent to the approval of tax abatements, together with the passage of almost 2 years, uh, constitute a material change of circumstances which would justify this council reconsidering the tax abatements. And that's sort of a central question. We do not have any updated information. The only information that we have regarding either of these projects was the information that was provided in the summer of 2021. So how those projects will have changed or even whether they'll go forward, we don't know. We have not received any information regarding revised cost or updated plans, so we really can't determine whether there has been a material change that would justify reconsidering the tax abatements. Final question was whether the county council has the authority to reconsider, repeal, or rescind the tax abatement resolutions. The committee reviewed a February 2022 memorandum from Beasley and Gilkison, and by way of disclaimer, at the time that memorandum was prepared, I was employed by Beasley Gilkison. I assisted in the research and writing of that memorandum. That memo concludes that the council has the authority to reconsider the adoption of the tax abatement resolutions based upon a material change in circumstances under the Indiana Home Rule law. Council for Meadow Forge supplied a letter which was part of our report in which they disagreed. And we've since received a letter from attorneys for Hawthorne that also disagrees with the conclusion that we had reached. But everybody agrees, all attorneys agree that the matter's not been decided by any Indiana court. We don't know what the answer is. Our conclusion was based upon a general principle that if the council has adopted a resolution or an ordinance, that it can later repeal it. That's sort of standard law, but we don't know if it applies in this specific situation. And it would ultimately have to be a court decision. Council for at least one set of developers have been suggested or expressed their intent that they would probably file suit if the county were to proceed to rescind the tax abatements. That was the report of the committee. Since that time, 2 additional items that I would like to put before the council. We received a letter yesterday from Hawthorne Solar. And I circulated that to each member of the council yesterday. Again, they disagree with the idea of that the council can reconsider the tax abatements. The one thing I would object to in their letter is they refer to something as a tax abatement agreement with Delaware County. There's no tax abatement agreement. There are only the resolutions that were adopted by the council. The other item that was not considered by the tax abatement committee, but has a direct bearing on this whole discussion, is the economic development agreement that was signed by Delaware County and Meadow Forge Solar Energy prior to the time that the moratorium went into effect. Hawthorne did not get to this step. They did not sign a EDA, is my understanding. In looking at the economic development agreement, there is I'll call it curious provision, it's paragraph 11. And it says that as so long as the owner of this project is complying with the statement of benefits that they have to file with as part of the tax abatement process, and they file for their deduction from their assessed value under the tax abatement, if that is subsequently disallowed, rescinded, canceled, or modified by the council, then the owner can first terminate their obligations under this agreement, and that they would also receive they would be entitled to an equal credit against future taxes equal to the amount they would have received under the tax abatement. So if we were to repeal the tax abatement and in the case of Meadow Forge, I think the calculation was that they would receive a benefit of about $5 million toward their property taxes. According to this paragraph, they would then get a credit of $5 million against their future taxes. Which it's sort of a heads they win, tails we lose proposition from my point of view. And it raised three questions in my mind. First of all, it seemed to be that they're conceding that we have the authority to rescind their tax abatement. That it specifically says, if we do it, this is what happens. They didn't say you can't do it. So that's kind of contrary to the position they've taken, or the council has taken. Secondly, if this were invoked, it would be a horrible resort for the county because of that maximum levy proposition again. They would have to pay their taxes. Everybody's tax rate would be reduced. We'd be our maximum levy, but then they'd get this credit. So that would take the county, for instance, and other taxing units well below their maximum levy. So it would be a substantial cost to the county. The third thing that occurs to me here is that this agreement was signed by the company and the county commissioners. And I don't know, and I haven't done research, we would leave this up to the council's attorney and Mr. Brook, the county attorney, to look into. I don't know how the county commissioners have the authority to grant a tax credit. We're the fiscal body of the county. And that's why tax abatements come here instead of going to the commissioners, because it deals with the fiscal side of the county. So to me, that's a significant question. Do the commissioners have the authority to grant a tax credit, even a conditional tax credit, as described in this? So all of that is I would say a further complication to the whole discussion regarding tax abatements and the possibility of the council reconsidering those. It's been pointed out and merits serious consideration that this threat of litigation, like any litigation, could be expensive, could be time consuming, and ultimately, as I said there, we don't have much guidance from the courts as to how they would decide. We don't know what might happen. So we cannot guarantee success in court, and they can't either. You know, they would be facing the same challenges that we're facing. So that's a summary of my report.
Thank you.
And to further clarify that, Bill, your understanding, and Ben, is that there's been no rescinding of a tax abatement ever in the state of Indiana. Is that correct?
I don't know that I could state that definitively, but what we are certainly sure of is that there's no case on point. So I suppose it's possible that one was rescinded and not challenged, because then there would be no case that would generate a appeal.
And there is a process in the statute for rescinding a tax abatement if the company fails to do what it promised to do when they initially, so they said they were going to hire 50 employees and they come back, well, we only hired 10 employees. There is a provision in the statute to rescind the tax abatement on that basis.
Yeah.
Okay. And of course, as I think Mr. Bookout pointed out in our meeting, there are numerous cases where a tax abatement has been granted, then the project never materializes. And it just goes away at that point.
So, in my opinion, we have at least one, if not two, missing pieces here. We have the lack of an update from the solar companies on any changes, any updates, any financial information since the abatement was applied for.
Correct.
And then secondly, we have the outstanding question of this EDA interpretation, whether it's even valid. Commissioners have reached out about meeting with the council, which won't happen, obviously didn't happen before today. So it's gonna be my suggestion, we either table or make a motion for a special hearing that is required for them to come and present updated information to us before a final decision gets made. That's my opinion on it at this point.
Before we go any further, Mr. Freeman, could you outline the requirements if the council was to, motion rescind? What would need to be done? Could you state that for the record?
Sure. So as was stated, back about almost 2 years ago now in the memo that Bill, Mr. Hughes referenced, there is no statute on point for this. It's been much talked about, a lot of disagreement going both ways. What we had outlined in that memo was, at a minimum, we believed the process would have to mirror and reverse the process for granting the abatement in the first place. There would need to be published notice. I believe it's 10 days prior to the public meeting is the statute for, the tax abatement. So basically you would follow that in reverse. So you publish that you're gonna take up the question, provide at least 10 days notice, and then hold the meeting on that basis.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. So, a couple of things. First, I can't speak for everybody else, but when I heard that information about the economic development agreement, once I got past my outrage and just complete frustration that commissioners would sign that, put us in this position, allowing a tax credit to go forward even if we rescinded, which is complete ridiculousness to me. But once I got past that, I shared the same concern that Mr. Hughes said. I question the validity of how they can even do that. They don't control the money, we control the money. They don't control the tax credits, we control the tax credits. I don't make adjustments and make provisions for my neighbor's house, I make them for my house. Because I don't control their house. They don't control this house. So that's my first thing. I don't believe they have any right to enter into an agreement stating that if we decide independently on our own from them, we want to go a different direction, that we then have to abide by what they've agreed to. That doesn't make any sense to me. I'm not a lawyer, but common sense factor tells me that doesn't hold any water. That's the first thing. Second thing, that economic development agreement was signed in 2021. I'm gonna officially apologize to everyone in this room and everyone who's watched and everyone who's attended those commissioners meetings and watched commissioners sit up there and tell every one of you that I don't know anything about any of this until all these property agreements started getting signed. Don't know nothing about it. That's obviously not true, because an EDA was signed in 2021. So there was knowledge of this project going forward. So no one else will apologize to you for it, I will. And then the third thing I'm gonna say, and this is really just a reminder for everyone, and I asked Mr. Freeman to state those requirements for a reason, and I'm gonna ask everyone to go back to November 2023. I sit in this very chair and I made a motion to follow those exact steps that he just outlined, to consider rescinding this agreement. I'm gonna read it right here, it's the official minutes. Councilmember Webb made a motion to refer both tax abatements back to the Tax Abatement Committee for review. We've done that. Tax Abatement Committee met, they've reviewed. Report back to council to discuss those findings. We're doing that right now. Next step, council is to hold a special hearing for the developers to update council and then consider the possibility of rescinding the tax abatement for a vote. That's where we're at now. So we're already on second base in this process, right? We get it in November. It was voted on unanimously. I might add. But to go what Councilmember Kansas said, to have a hearing. I'm glad you said that, because that's actually the next step in the motion that has already passed unanimously, that we are to conduct a special hearing for the vote of this rescission. I just wanted to remind the council of that, remind everyone of that, that was voted on and passed unanimously in November. And there was multiple parts to it, and now we're at the third stage of it.
I will say too that, we'd asked Ben to reach out to John Brook, the commissioner's, attorney, to get some clarification, and they have reached back and are willing to meet with us, so we'll need to discuss that and, we can have those conversations.
Would it be wise to table this till we have our discussion with the council and the attorney,
With the commissioners?
commissioners and the attorney? Thank you.
Well, I think we have to have like a 10-day notice for a public hearing, right?
I don't know if there's anything to table. I think we could hold off scheduling the public hearing until we've talked to the commissioners. But I think, to Brian's point, I think we'll need to schedule the public hearing at some point and make sure that due notice is given and publicity.
Bill, is that the mechanism though to get the solar companies here? And,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know if you might remember this one, but during that motion, because it was a limited motion, you said for the purpose of your motion, Ryan, does it have to be a special hearing or can it be a regular council meeting? And my response was, I don't care either way, whatever it takes. So if you think we need to have a special hearing or if we can do it in our February meeting,
My thought process, this wasn't in the motion, and my thought process was to do it, if possible, at the February meeting, or perhaps a separate, special meeting immediately following the regular meeting.
I agree.
Something in that nature, but, I'd leave that up to the council, how they want to proceed.
It's worth noting, according to your rules, the president can call a special meeting. So if, based on material developments that continue to, information that comes in, if we get financial updates, whatever the case may be, the president could then, whether it's immediately following your February meeting or sometime before or after, she could call a special meeting for that purpose.
So it sounds like we're gonna hold tight, meet with the commissioners and then, and potentially call a special meeting. I would caution everybody who, that this is just, I mean, it is in some ways dragging this process along. That, we don't necessarily have, meaningful grounds to rescind abatement that was properly followed. That the financial ramifications of rescinding that agreement, regardless of the language in the EDA, are gonna be significant to the county. This year's budget is gonna be no better or worse than it was last year. And so we just do not have the funds necessarily to fight something of this nature unless there's a absolute, darn good reason we can have, I think, legally to do something. So I don't think that this process does anything other than try to get it to completion in the proper way. As most people know that have talked to me, I mean, I've spent many hours doing this and researching this as best I could to get to that point. But, I also don't want this to feel like this is because the end result is gonna be something different than it probably, ends up being. We're just trying to finish the due diligence more than anything else. And I do think that the company should have to come and report to us. It hasn't been done. I have no clue what's going on with any of those projects. Primarily is, my main driver for that. So I think that's good for the public to hear. And then they can have their opportunity to speak about it as well. So, to me, that's where we're at.
A great recap.
well, if I could add to that, I know it may feel like being drug out, but I agree. I think it needs to have its day in court, if you will, and see a final resolution. The only thing I'm uncomfortable with is waiting, having an open-ended deal where we're waiting to hear back. I think that we need to really set a date of the March or the February meeting at a hard target date to get this done, because the time is, no matter which way you go, whether to wrap it up or change your mind, vote with me and vote to rescind, it needs to happen soon. So I would still like to urge
Sure.
president to try to.
And
focus
I
on that
agree
February
with
meeting.
Bill that maybe right after, like, close out our February meeting, take like a 5-minute break and then come back and do that.
That to me would be ideal.
I'm agreeable with that.
Can we call it that then? If you're agreeable with that, can we? We've got-
I
I think the commissioner.
We need to speak with the commissioners. We also want to make sure that if it's so important for us to have these companies come, that they're available,
I think she's back there.
both companies, both. We
Okay.
got two. So, but yeah, we definitely want to make sure that, to Matt's point, he gets an update, all of you get an update, on where the process is right now and what they're doing. So, we're gonna make that our target. Does that work for you? Make that the target? Okay.
I'd like to throw something out as well. Since the commissioners have changed the zoning, is there now another process involved with the solar companies that they have to, is it reapply?
Permitted use now, correct?
Especially,
It's a special use.
Special use.
It was a
Permitted.
permitted use, now it is a special use.
so their procedure is,
For permit, special use permits for the projects.
which they've not done. Does anybody have knowledge of that?
I don't have any knowledge of what they have or haven't for,
And
requested.
we really aren't involved in that side of it at all. That's a whole separate process.
One of you speak to that question?
Would you please?
Brandy Ehrman, Plan Commission. At this time, our office has not, to my knowledge, received any, new plans for any of the solar projects that have been proposed. And then when we do, they would have to follow special use, like you mentioned, which is variance means notification to the surrounding property owners, everything that would be involved in that. So, but no plans have been reviewed by any of our planners.
Thank you. Thank you, Brandy.
All right. Thank you, Bill. Moving on to elected officials and department heads.
The business.
Please give me.
Oh, my word. Thank you. New
You're
business. I have
fast
too many
forward.
notes here.
Very fast forward, but-
We do have the approval of our 2024 encumbrances. Those were handed out to us from the auditor's office. Tanya, do you want to share anything about these or?
They're just the total encumbrances. Anyone who has an invoice in 2023 can encumber that money into 2024 in order to pay it out. And Keita has worked on those totals and has the list, and Ed has it for you all to sign.
We do this every year. So is there any additional questions on this? If not, I'll
If they,
entertain.
if they don't encumber it, then they would have to come back and
Reappropriate,
reappropriate it.
That's
So it
correct.
saves that step.
and they can only encumber, again, if they have an invoice
Invoice in hand.
for the 2023. Otherwise, it does go back and then have to reappropriate.
All right. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the 2024 encumbrances.
So move. Second?
Motion by, was that Eugene, second by Dan. A roll call, please.
Mr. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Cantz. Yes. Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Mr. Piper.
Yes. Great, thank you. All right, now elected officials and department heads.
I'd like to take a minute, to thank Councilman Hughes for his dedication,
Yes, I meant to say that too. Yes. Yeah,
very well done, very informative. So we appreciate all you've done.
Yeah, Jim and I were at the tax abatement committee meeting and, Bill, appreciate the work that you and the group did. Very thorough job, so. thank you.
Sheriff, you're up.
I concur. Tony Skinner, Delaware County Sheriff. Usually in January, I present you with a pension update and meal cost update. I'm still waiting on some documents from a couple different entities, so I apologize. I don't have that this month. I'll get that to you next month. I will report that last month in December, we crossed the $2 million mark in money that's been earned from housing out of county inmates and federal inmates. So I want to give a big shout out to our corrections officers. And I'm going to remind you guys of that frequently all the way up till September.
That include federal?
That does. Yeah, and that's in less than 3 years, so pretty happy about that.
How's that program going, Sheriff?
It's going pretty well. The other thing I wanted to remind you, or not remind you, but tell you of, is we put in for this year, for our anticipated revenue for federal inmates, we had to average 20 inmates per day for the entire year to hit that mark. And since about early December, we've been in the low 30s, so we've got 33 today, so.
You know,
I'll remind you of that again.
I fully expect you to.
I'm hoping that, you know, I was either last month or the month before, I went over to the jail and worked with the correctional officers for a few hours, and I heard some of their complaints, some of their gripes, and just to remind everyone that when the deputies and everybody got their raises, those correctional officers were kind of left out of that, not to anyone's fault, it was just kind of got overlooked. Thought we were giving it because we're based off the Madison County,
Right.
but it really wasn't that much of an increase for those
No.
guys. And, trust me, after spending 4 hours in there, I couldn't imagine spending 8, 12 hours in there every day. So, I'm really hoping that, when you come in here on budget time, that's reflected in your request for their salary increases, because I'd love to support it.
It will be, and to caveat off of that, you council members are always welcome to come up and work a shift in the jail or do ride-alongs with our deputies. I'm serious, you always are, and I encourage that. I encourage you to go ride with County Highway, I encourage you to ride with EMS, I encourage you to go sit down and dispatch for 4 or 5 hours and watch what they do. Because until you sit there and see that for a matter of hours or even an entire shift, you don't have a clue. You're up here making financial decisions on jobs that you don't have a clue what they do. And I think it's important for you, and it should be a requirement that you do that. So I fully encourage that. And because you brought up the Madison County, 2 years ago, we did match Madison County, with their pay scale for our deputies and our corrections officers. Our corrections officers now are just shy of $39,000 annual pay. Madison County's up to 45 grand for their COs. So that didn't last long. Thank you.
Sheriff, real quick, we did give the jail employees an increase for this year, did we not?
750.
750.
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
okay,
We did the 750, right on that last day, we had
Yeah.
a couple extra dollars,
we did it,
but we did that.
okay. Thank you.
Gavin Green, Delaware County Coroner. I too also invite anyone to come with me on calls just to see what we have to experience on a daily basis as well too. I've already emailed everyone, and Denise got a copy of my 2023 year-end recap that I just wanted to go over with everyone. Good statistics here. In 2023, we had 564 cases. Out of those, 334 were signed by me personally, those death certificates, meaning that 230 had doctor signed. So if we got called to a scene or got a phone consult and we could call a doctor and say, hey, your patient has passed away, they had a huge medical history, are you willing to sign it? They will go ahead and sign it. Just to let you know, for the males, it was not good. We had 207 males pass away that were underneath those certificates I signed, and 127 were female. Breakdown per month, I'm not gonna go through all of them, but May was our busiest month with 66. And it looks like we had a total of, it shows right here, I broke it down per manner. So it'd be accident, homicide, natural suicide, or could not be determined. Those are the 3 categories we can do. We had 152 accidents. Accident includes overdoses. An overdose is considered an accident because no one really plans on overdosing and dying. And then we had 10 homicides and 33 suicides and 129 natural.
How many overdoses were we, you know?
We don't, that's not a category that we can actually populate. Rhiannon from our office has actually asked the state, and you have to physically go line by line and pull and see what it was. In the email that I sent you, I also put together all of the cause of deaths that I would populate. So there would be one we called acute drug intoxication, and then it would list out methamphetamine, amphetamines. There's a hot list of all the words that came up from all of our cases. So you'll see that in your email.
So even though she's not tracking that though, can you just tally it manually?
Yes, but I would have to pull from an I would have to ask the state, and then I would have to go line by line and say, okay, that's an overdose, that's an overdose. But I bet you out of that, I'd
I meant
say,
more as you go along, not
Yes.
redoing the work. but I
yes,
mean,
yeah, we will. And I'm actually working with the state right now because the amount of time it took them to pull these reports for the most simple thing in the world was really hard to do. So I said, I don't know why more coroners are not going to their councils and giving this information. And so I'm presenting this to the state and to Vital Records and say, hey, this is what I present to our council to kind of give them an update. So when we ask for more money or we need new equipment or we need uniforms, hey, we had 500 some cases. So that's, we're trying to, but yeah, we're going to that. Hopefully, once I build this dashboard, I'll be able to say, here we go. I would say at least 100 were probably overdoses, roughly, I would guess. So it's not really, it was a shame. Breaking down for all of we have 3 full-time people, myself, Rhiannon Reed, our office administrator and our lead investigator, and then my chief deputy, Gary Venata. We're 3, the full-times, and the rest are part-time. Those part-time people, just to remind you, and I'll tell you every single month, are not an hourly employee. It is a per case basis. So if you're on call for 24 hours and you get 0 calls, they do not get paid anything. But they cannot leave the county, they are on call that 24/7. So if they need to leave a family event, they're gonna have to leave. If it's a telephone call, meaning they do not need to go to the scene, that's $25. And if it's a coroner's case where we're gonna be doing an autopsy, they go to a scene, they have to do a death notification, that's $100. I'm gonna be, working with, council over the next couple months to try to get that raised. Because for $25 or $100 after taxes and leaving your family at 2 o'clock in the morning like I do, but if it was just per case, some people are saying, hey, is it worth it? Because each case is roughly about 4 hours from start to finish, from notification, being on scene. I know that they were on scene for 6 hours on a call for last Thursday night that I was at, so, it's pretty time consuming. I have it broken down also in that report of the number of cases per each one of our deputies. I took 160 cases. One of our part-time people actually took, second with 147. And then my chief deputy did, 98. And then it goes 74, 42, 26, 11, and 6. And so I just wanted to also kind of break that down, that between the deputy coroner, the chief deputy coroner, and myself, we logged roughly 5,226 hours of on-call time for coroner duties. So, or roughly 2,613 each. So he and I are both on call, 12-hour shifts from Sunday until Thursday, and we do 4:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. So he's 4:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., and then I come on at 4:30 p.m., and I'm on until 4:30 a.m.
So that's in it, I'm not understanding that. So, well, I know what, full-time is 2,080 hours,
Correct,
right? So you guys are logging more than 40 hours a week
yes,
in terms of just being on call.
correct.
But then if you're on call, you got something and then you have to pass it off to somebody else, it goes to down the line.
Yeah, so that actually, was brought up and there was no protocols in place. There was I don't want to call it it was a large event that happened at the end of July of 2023, where there was a mass incident that overran our emergency department. And thankfully, only one person died. And I say thankfully, there could have been a lot more. There were a lot of people shot. I was actually out of town, but the chief of police from Ball Hospital called me and said, I need every one of your deputies here right now, basically. And I said, what for? And so what came out of that was, if anyone has more than 3 cases going on at any given time, that person is going to be overloaded, having 3 people. So then we're going to pass it off. So what you just said, my example, last Thursday, I had a call for 6 hours on Thursday night. The Muncie Police Department had to wait for me for an hour and a half because I was dealing with another case. Because I would have pulled someone else, they would have got $100 that I can go there, they just need to give me some time. So we have done, but if we get three, as it came out in the paper yesterday with our, we finally got all the results from there was a double homicide, suicide. That was three people. I took it because I had all the information and I was right there and it was one location. But if you have like three different areas from every single corner of the county, you're gonna start being spread thin. So then that's when we decided that once you have more than three, then we're gonna call in the next person on the list or just call and say, hey, who can take any calls?
Are you taking into account the possibility of having another full-time deputy as opposed to all these part-time deputies?
Not at this time. I've been working with our pathologist, actually had to go on medical leave for 8 weeks. And that increased our expenses by about 20,000 in the month of November and December, I would say. And why I bring this up is I was on the phone with the Madison County coroner every day because that's where we had to transport our bodies from Delaware County over to St. Vincent or community to do the autopsies. Talking to him, he does not do a per case. It is just you're on call for 12 hours at a time and you get paid $12 an hour. So whether you have 3 cases or no cases, you're getting paid $12 an hour. That helps when it comes to budgeting purposes and just say, hey, look, I've got somebody that I'm going to be paying all the time. It equates about out to the same. We've talked about having like a stipend that if you are on call, that you maybe just get $50 that if you just for your time, because you have to sit at home or you really can't do anything. You can't go to Indianapolis and go to the air park and jump around on the trampolines, just to kind of take your time up. But not right now, no. It's worked out tremendously. I mean, Rhiannon from the office, she had 11 cases last year, and I think the year before she had 3. So that's just, hey, we're busy, somebody's on a call. And so that's where that's why we increased her salary and changed her job description, that she's been helping out a lot too.
Thank you.
And I can tell you that I just want to say thank you very much, Delaware County EMS, to Mike and to, that whole team helping us transport. I actually rode over one day, with them on a Sunday morning and I helped them. Greg Michaels was like, yeah, if you want to come over, ride with me. I was the one that lifted the cot and got to do it. And he said, yep, this is the last truck that's going to be retrofitted and it would be really nice. Hopefully it reduces a ton of work comp injuries, going forward on that too. So like one elected official got to ride with EMS. So yeah, I've been there, done that. So it's going to be awesome when that all happens. So again, thank you to him, and it was a blessing to be able to have them for those 7 weeks, even though Mike was saying very pleasant words underneath his breath about me, so.
Who isn't?
Well, Gavin, I always appreciate that you take the time to pull all the data. I know there's some of us up here on the bench who really enjoy looking at numbers and looking at data that way. But kudos to the word cloud. So, but he included a word cloud, so I forget who asked the question, but like some of the top words are methamphetamine, amphetamine, fentanyl. So obviously those are all those overdose cases, but that does hydrocodone. It does help get an idea of what type of cases you're dealing with. So I appreciate the update and the email.
One of the things I do want to mention, one of the things that has increased our workload that we've been working with Ryan Johnston with the CMO with IU Baltimore Hospital and Dr. Matthew Kane. They have a company that now signs their death certificates, so we don't have to track down a doctor. The problem is, per state statute, that the coroner will investigate any falls that contribute factor to a death or anything that is not natural. So what has happened is a lot of cases are being viewed as natural in the hospital, and anywhere from 2 days, 3 days to 3 weeks later, they go to sign that death certificate, they review the medical record and say, oh, this should have been a coroner's case. What then happens is that probably turns into about 6 hours worth of work, because not only are we investigating why they died, but we have to go backwards to find out exactly from when they died and then try to piece everything together. And there's been many shifts that have happened since that person died, and it's a lot of work. So the workload is definitely, our caseload went down by about 120 autopsies that we had budgeted, but those cases that we do have increased hourly. So,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Gavin?
Any other elected officials or department heads? Emily, did anyone sign up for public comment? Do you mind looking? Oh, okay.
No.
Is there anyone who wished to speak? All right, any comments from the council?
I do, if anyone.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just had a couple things I just wanted to kind of just say real quick. I didn't think it was, I touched a little bit on it on, I'm sorry, what'd you say your name was for the planning commission? Kayleen? Kylene. I touched a little bit on it when Miss Kylene was up there, but I didn't really feel it was appropriate to go all in on her since she was first meeting, but, I just wanted to just kind of get off the year, just with all the department heads and know where I was at on this, as far as those contractual services. For me personally, if, you're a department head and you're coming in here asking for something, for me, I'm asking for you to bring an invoice, an estimate, something that shows me that if you need $50,000, why you need $50,000. Again, I'm just one vote, but for me, for that vote, I'm gonna need to see something for this year and moving forward, if it goes on beyond that. But I just wanted to touch base on that just a little bit, and just make sure everyone understood it, because I didn't want to catch anyone off guard when they come in here. And I didn't really want to specifically call out anybody or anything like that. So just a blanket statement, if you're a department head, you're coming in, you have a contractual service or something, please have an invoice ready if I ask to see it. That way it can help me with my decision making. The second thing, we already touched base on the solar and the commissioners and all that stuff. I just wanted to just kind of mention, just briefly, for the record, I know yesterday, our friends down at the State House in Indianapolis had voted on a bill for allow local governments to set rules, kind of toss out our, to have some rules for unruly citizens in meetings and stuff like that. And I just want to go on a record as saying, I don't believe that we need anything like that. I don't think that, obviously any municipality can set their own rules if this goes through the Senate. It did pass the House yesterday. But for us, sometimes people get up there, they get upset, they get frustrated. They may raise their voice, they may yell at us. That's what we signed up for, And I think it's important for me to say it, because I've probably had more people sit at that podium and yelling at me more than most people combined. And not all of them are telling the truth. Some of them are lies. Some of them might even be in this room. But I just think it's important that if we're elected, we give those people that space to speak. So I'm really hoping that our legislators, the Senate votes down that bill and just allows us to, I think our president does a pretty good job of keeping the room respectful. If someone gets out of hand, hey, can you keep it down? And it pretty much goes along those ways. So I hope we can continue that without actually having a law and setting rules in place, because the last thing I want to see is citizens kicked out of a meeting that they have every constitutional right to be in. So I just thought that was important to comment on that. That's all I have. And I hope everyone is getting their year off to a great start.
Anything else from?
I'd like to echo the thoughts from Mr. Mokel and Mr. Cantz about Mr. Hughes and the appreciation. Congratulate Mr. Beasley.
Well, I just want to share, last night, members of the council, Eugene and Dan and Jim and Matt and myself all attended the Indiana County Councils Association East Central Indiana District meeting, which is something that the association has started for, I think this was maybe the second or third time they've done this. And it just gives us an opportunity to have a legislative update on what's going through the pipeline and how some of those bills can impact not only the council's ability to do certain things, also somehow some funding can be used, as well as just anything that could impact our budget. I know the term last night got used a few times, unfunded mandates, when the state just says that we're going to have to do some things, but they don't provide any funding for us. So it was a great opportunity for us all to kind of get a snapshot of what's going on, what some of the concerns are of the ICCA, and reminding us that we, to talk to our state reps and our senators if we have any questions or concerns about how these can impact the county. So I always appreciate when we're able to go, and Delaware County had the most council members in attendance. So we got kudos last night from the association. So that was kind of nice. And I'm, want to make sure I just thank everyone for all the council members, for wanting to attend these things and wanting to learn and wanting to be engaged and understanding on all the moving parts. And I was very proud last night, to have most of us in attendance. So, that's all I have. Anyone else? With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Jim, motion by, oh,
Dan.
Dan? It didn't sound like you. Dan, second by Matt. Roll call, please.
Ms. Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Ms. Cantz. Yes. Mr. Mokel.
Yes.
Mr. Webb.
Yes.
Mr. Wyatt.
Yes.
Ms. Piper.
Yes, and our next meeting is Tuesday, February 27th at 9 a.m., same place. We'll see you then. Thank you.